Well, welcome, 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 welcome. Today's subject, after a nice long day at work, it wasn't that long, just the norm, just the normal norms. All right, the topic is regarding kind of a follow-up to shared goals video that I made. Just want to make sure that that's clear. This is fantastic. I'll get a little break, about 2 minutes, maybe 1.5. So I made a shared goals video in response to Owen Benjamin's Prager University video about why we can't argue with leftists. And his response to that was in regards to how we don't have shared goals. And I, in brief, the Cliff Notes version is, I said, yeah, that's true, but where do these goals come from? And my conclusion was that these goals come from it's amazing. It's amazing. These goals come from beliefs. Then I was having a fantastic time with my wife, and I came to the realization that there's a little bit more to the word belief, because it's also about values. So you can have values that match, nuances to those values identifiable as with the word belief that differ, but your values can match. And values, these words can have overlap in meaning and intention and all that. Goals, values, beliefs, they can have some overlap, but they are distinct as well. Just want to make sure that that's clear. Okay. So let me give you an example. I think that this is a good example. In marriage, happens. There will be some type of conflict. If there is never conflict at all, then you probably don't have a marriage. Take that for, take that for what it is. I would, yeah. Anyway, conflict. So the question is, what do you do about the conflict? Well, one possible decision is to resolve it and have a commitment to resolving the conflict. That could be identified as a value. A person that engages has marriage, is married, and then they run into a conflict, and they say, hey, this is a conflict, we are going to resolve this. Always, when we have conflict, we will resolve it, period, end of story. That can be a value. Now you have to ask the question of how and when. Okay? And that will result in your beliefs, which can be nuanced and different. So, personal example is, I have a belief that it is most advantageous to resolve conflict as soon as possible, to resolve conflict same day. Okay? That's my general belief. The underlying value is that conflict must, it is required, it is paramount, it is beyond, it's the most important thing. You must resolve it. Unresolved conflict is poison. It's cancer. It's worse than poison. It's definitely a cancer. That's the better way of putting it. Okay. So, that's a value. And do I share that value with my wife? Yes. In fact, that value, not the belief portion, but that value was something that we determined perhaps before we even started dating. If I had to really like identify, that was very early on in us getting to know each other. And once you recognize that somebody has a devotion and a commitment to humility, to being wrong, to submission, to compromise, whatever words you want to use. I know that some of those are considered dirty words. I get it. You're wrong. They're not. Very good things. Okay? Within context. Okay? And with wisdom applied. They're good. Okay? So, got the value. Conflict must be resolved. Absolutely. Okay? Now, you have a belief. So, my whole belief situation, and thank you for the thumbs up. You're not here anymore, but if you ever come back to the video, appreciate you. So, you got the value down. You understand that? The belief. Okay? So my belief is the same day situation. My wife doesn't share that belief. We still hold the same value. We still agree on the value. I hope that that's clear enough. We both believe that resolving conflict is mandatory. That's the word I was looking for. Mandatory. Okay? We both believe that. I say believe, but that's our value. That's a value. It's an underlying value that we both hold to. Now, how that happens, it's different. That results in a little bit of conflict in and of itself every now and then. But we work it out because of the underlying value that we both want to have resolution. A dedication to resolution is part of our common values. This is silly. Let me go up one, but now I'm in a little. I don't like to block traffic. I don't like to prevent people. I was talking about this earlier. This can kind of tie into the whole values and beliefs thing. Though I really don't like people speeding, and it's annoying and all that. I also don't like to prevent people from breaking the law. You know, that's a little itsy bitsy part of libertarianism in me, I guess. Let people do what they want to do to an extent. We're all pretty well concerned with the extent of it not affecting my life, and that is a slippery slope, my friends. Just exactly related, and here's how it's related. It's about shared values. Do we share the value of? This is a brilliant irony, and I don't even know if those two words should belong together, but I just want you to really capture. You can see. I see now that you can see in the stream. You see just how close people are behind me. That's hilarious. I'm really glad that you can participate in just seeing how closely people will follow. And I'm going exactly the speed limit. Locked in. Cruise control. Anyway, check this out. It's very ironic. It brings me, I don't know, humor, joy, hilarity, something tickles my funny bone. So you've got individuals that believe that Only in Florida. Only in Florida do you get to see that kind of thing. It's amazing. Your mom chose life, shouldn't you? Billboard. So, you've got people saying, listen, you do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. Okay, just don't let it affect my life. Okay? But it does, though. But it does, though. That's my point. It does affect your life. If two people want to go behind the dumpster over here, and you know, okay, sodomy, okay, how is that going to affect my life? It's really weird, guys. It's so weird. It's so weird. But here's what happens. People say, listen, you do you. I'm just going to focus on me doing my life. I don't agree with that, but whatever. Do what you want to do. Okay? You've got that going on. And then you've got people. This is how it happens. It's really something. It goes around and around and around. Follow this logic. One person says you do what you want. The person does what they want. Somebody else that's also doing that same thing, sodomy, goes around and asks, hey, I've been doing this thing. I'm just wondering how you feel about it. At some point, this inevitably happens where somebody asks another person, potentially of a differing perspective, what they think of it. Okay? That person responds as, I wouldn't do that, and I don't think that it's good that you're doing that. And there, but I'm not going to stop you from doing it. It's not going to change the way that I treat you. I'm just telling you that I don't think that it's good or right or any of that. Okay? And one person can take that as though, oh, okay, well, to each his own, right? And another person says, oh, well, you're being intolerant. Because they're restricted from doing a thing that they might want to do. I'm driving into a complete, and you might start to see a little bit of it, but as I stare ahead, the world ends. There's nothing but fog, and it's sudden. I went from blue sky loveliness to a shiny, like it's dark and then shiny at the bottom. It's very weird. Very, very strange. Anyway, so at some point they ask to do something. Okay, so the opinion thing, we talked about that. But at some point somebody asks to do something, such as, obviously the cake thing comes to mind. Hey, I'd like you to make this cake for me. Or we go back several decades. Hey, we see all these other people getting married, and there's like these tax benefits and stuff like that, and we like sodomy, so we'd like the benefits too, because you said you do you and you do me, and you know, to each his own, and you're not going to judge me, so there. I mean, so that kind of is interesting. Well, there was a restriction, and now there's not, right? Now the restriction is lifted. So then the question goes, well, goodness, why is, if marriage is a religious institution, and part of a religious practice, and it's really got no place at all for the non-religious, well, why? Well, because it's been incentivized. It's been incentivized, and that might not be for the best. I mean, I get the pragmatic aspects of it. I file jointly. on my taxes. I get it. But on the other hand, it's kind of strange. I mean, good old shout out to Brandon Tatum, who brought this issue up. Tithing is awkward because there's a kickback, and anybody that tries to tithe conscientiously, faithfully, humbly, correctly, can't help but have the thought that it's a little awkward that there's a kickback. It doesn't make sense. So same with marriage. Why is there a kickback? And then that once makes other people jealous. So you can't restrict marriage to non-religious people. And then there's religious ceremonies and non-religious ceremonies, and it's kind of complicated. I had this discussion with my wife, and we talked about it, and there's a concept of something called common grace, that if we were to remove marriage as a common item of life available to the non-religious, there would be much more debasement and degradation of society. Thanks to common grace, look it up, it's a good topic, we are afforded less degradation, less debased morality. Not eliminated, obviously. It's just a mess, but it could be even worse. Basically, it's a little complicated, you have to admit. So, what happens is those who follow Jesus, the Bible, worship the Creator of all things, God the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. They engage in certain practices and have certain benefits that are kind of interesting to others. I mean, we could really break it down and give a simple example of just gathering together once every week. How many other people groups, organizations, societies, whatever, meet weekly all year for their entire life? I'm not saying that doesn't exist. Just on the top of my mind, nothing's glaringly obvious. Work, but that's obviously different, completely different purpose. So, I mean, that could be, that could create jealousy. So, so my point is, it's a flow. This is what happens is there's a logical progression. You start with somebody wanting to do their own thing, and then they ask, is it wrong or whatever? What's your opinion on this? There's two different answers, two different types of people, or there's one answer, or whatever. You get the point. It goes several different ways. Based on their lifestyle, they might be prohibited or lack access to certain benefits and or lifestyle situation or whatever, and very, there's a phenomenon of how people like to fit in and belong and all that, and if you feel like you're not accepted and endorsed by an entire category of people, that doesn't feel good. So there's this massive attempt of certain groups, specifically sodomites, to dismantle and disintegrate And remove meaning, remove history, remove significance, remove context, remove hermeneutics, so on and so on. Completely dismantle the whole thing so that they can justify their behavior and fit in. Okay. Well, the funny thing is, it's not necessarily, none of this is funny. The situation is that the followers of Christ were explicitly told and warned that the world would hate them because of Jesus. Because of Jesus. That is too easily forgotten. We don't experience in America the kind of testing and persecution that we hear stories of. But I think we're really blind to the type of persecution we are receiving. It's in a different way, but it's, I would say, worse. Subversive, covert. That's what I'm going to say. So the type of persecution, covert persecution, is what's taking place, and that, my friends, that's a study all on itself. I'm going to dive into that one, not right now, but we'll do that. We'll do that over the next couple of weeks. We'll talk about covert persecution, because I can't think of very many other things that are more relevant than the covert persecution of the church in America right now. Overt persecution is when you've got a Christian getting their head chopped off by someone who's Muslim. We're talking about extremists, though. That's only the extremists. Do you know what an extreme Christian looks like? I bet you don't. Do you know what the extreme Christian would look like? If there was an extremist Christian that took the Bible as literally as possible, as hermeneutically sound as possible, okay, not distorted, not comic level like those movies and YouTube videos. I lived like Jesus for a year. I'm not talking about that nonsense. Okay, I'm talking about hermeneutically sound, biblical extremist. Okay, somebody that's humble, somebody that knows about 1 Corinthians. What is love? Okay, somebody that truly gets it. They get it. Okay, what would that extremist look like? Well, one thing for sure, they wouldn't be chopping any heads off. Okay? They would not be chopping any heads off. Anyway, covert versus overt. So, obviously, we know what overt persecution looks like. Getting thrown in jail for years at a time just because you're a Christian. That's overt persecution. But what is covert persecution? Social shaming. That's one example. So it's socially inappropriate to say anything regarding biblical truth, to say that certain things are sin. That is socially unacceptable. And that, my friends, is a form of covert persecution. Oy vey. All right. In Florida and pretty much all states, you've got to get over when there's a police officer on the curb. It's respectful, and it's for safety. It is what it is. Just trying to follow the law, guys. Trying to follow the law. And I care. And that's one of the best ways to motivate yourself to follow the law any law, good law, but any law is to care. I literally care about the safety of that police officer. I actually care. That you could say would be a value. So there's other topics that bleed in. If we're going back to the original topic of shared values. Golly, I hate stuff in the road. Ethics. Okay, that's a potential. That's a potential thing. They could be related to values and beliefs. Are ethics the same thing as values? It's a good question. Is there nuances that separate them? I'll have to consider that. Some people are just like, well, you just look the words up and then, determine the difference. This is all off the top of my head, fellas, ladies, whomever. It's all like just what I got upstairs, okay? So I'm not trying to be disingenuous or lie or pretend. Not trying to flex, as they say. I don't really flex very much. Literally, not figuratively. All right. Shared values, guys. So what happens is it always boils down to, are you trying to be just, or are you trying to justify your being? There's a better way to put this into words. Are you trying to live just, or are you trying to justifyably live? Are you trying to live justly, or are you trying to justify your living? That might be a little bit more clear. So where's the flow? There you go. Where's the flow coming from? So is your living, are you the one from which your metric, are you the one determining what is right and wrong based on your own thoughts and beliefs and feelings? Or are you seeking to understand a separate external source of what is just, or what is good, what is right? Are you trying to make it up as you go based on how you feel, or are you trying to go to a specific source for what is good and right? And that, I might have said this might be a little redundant from my other video, but I think it's a good thing to continue to break down, understand as clearly as possible, so that there's no confusion, so that we're all on the same page, so that we can really immediately identify what's going on when we get into a disagreement with another person, or when we see that somebody just doesn't seem to get it. When somebody's not getting it, you gotta wonder why. And it's more than likely because they don't have a source. They're trying to be the source. They're trying to be the source for what is good and right. And that is literally trying to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Literally try to levitate from the ground by lifting your feet. If you pull hard enough, you'll just slam your bottom on the ground. Maybe I don't recommend that, but you get the point. That's what making a law unto yourself does, and that's how it works. It doesn't. You can fool yourself though. You can pretend to believe it. It can make sense, kind of. Really doesn't make sense at all, but I don't know. Hypothetically. It's a mess. It is a mess. I don't know. But when you're talking to somebody and you're just like, I have no idea how they believe what they're believing. Well, it's because they are determining. If we all went to the exact same source for what is true, what is good, what is right, if we had a singular source for that, everybody on the whole planet, and if that source was a good source, obviously, then it would be lots better. Well, here's the thing. Not me, I mean like forefathers, they tried really hard to make that thing. It's called the Constitution. And that's exactly what it's trying to do. It's trying to establish a singular resource that can always be referenced, that can always be the guide for how to make decisions. But when everybody doesn't agree on the interpretation or even on it itself, well, it's not going to work. It just doesn't work that way. Excuse me. Anyway, we're going to do this thing though, guys. We're going to do this thing. We are going to really dive into some topics. I'm gonna have to save the idea of covert persecution. That's a valuable topic. There was another one from this morning. I'll go back and get my reminder. But there's a lot more that we can work through. Valuable things that we can talk about, understand better, and what's the pro, what's going to happen. Well, it's about how we're going to be able to be better to our neighbors. It's going to be about how we're going to be better to each other. That is, we can study until the cows come home, which apparently takes a long time. That's why that phrase is used. Apparently it takes a really long time for the cows to come home. Until the cows come home. That's not like a short amount of time. It's an interesting metaphor that very few people have a reference point for. But we can study and study and study. My point is, it's not going to do anything unless it's changing our behavior. So the Bible studies and theological studies and discourse and all that we're going to be going through is going to be with the purpose of how it can help change your behavior, how it's going to change your personal life, your immediate family, your immediate community, your immediate friend circle, your neighborhood, and your community. And I'm trying to put the right word here. I dream of a day, meaning I hope, I pray for a day where Christians really are identified by their love, as it says in the Bible. That requires a tremendous lifestyle change. It's got to be obvious. It's got to be obvious, guys. We're gonna work that out practically, pragmatically. What is this gonna look like? It needs to be determined. It needs to be explicit. It needs to be simple. Anyway, that's all I have to say for today. I will catch you on L Tuesday. I'll see you on Tuesday. Hope everything goes well for you over the weekend. Today is Saturday. It's already the weekend for most. Stay safe. Make good decisions. Show love. The biblical kind, not the distorted, insane, sodomizing kind. Say no to sodomy.